It's a
So
pleasure.
yeah, and we can finally start. So I'm gonna just have like a short introduction so we explain exactly what this is. So this is the third episode of Satire Talks Live. It's a format of the cartoon movement. The cartoon movement is a venue for political cartoons. It's been active for around 10 years, and it basically counts in its ranks some of the best cartoonists in the world now. Actually, we are getting bigger and bigger. I am Emanuele Del Rosso. I am a social media manager for the cartoon movement and also a political cartoonist myself. And here in Satire Talks Live, we invite cartoonists that we would want to talk to about specific topics, and we do that roughly twice a month. And the first episode was Tjerd Royards, which is the editor-in-chief of the cartoon movement, and the second was Gatis Luka, Latvian political cartoonist, and now we have Ramses Morales Izquierdo. As always, I'm not going to introduce you. I think you can do that better yourself. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. You can tell us a bit who you are and what do you do exactly, when did you start with the cartoons, etc.
Okay. Well, my name is Ramses Morales. I am Cuban cartoonist. Now I'm living with my wife in Switzerland since 5 years ago or something. And since 1996, I'm publishing cartoons, political cartoons, editorial, illustrations. I am in the graphic world since 1996.
Okay, it's a long while. How did you start exactly? Was it something that you've always liked, or you were inspired by
Well,
something in particular?
well, I need to say that when I was a kid, the father of my father, he was an Spanish immigrant in Cuba, and he had a very large collection of New Yorkers. However, he cannot read it.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very simple man, but with big ideas. I always says he had big ideas in his head. And my pleasure was to flip those magazines. And someday I told him, "Hey, I want to publish one day here." I didn't know what means that, and
Mm-hmm.
he gave me my first pen and a block of paper, and he told me, "Okay, start now. You need to start
Mm-hmm.
now." And then later, my family support my entrance in the art academy in my city. My
Mm,
city
okay.
was very famous to have one of the best art academies in Cuba. So, and yeah, it's that was my beginning. So, and in 1996, I finished my education in art, in graphic arts, and I wanted to do a thesis in cartoons. So,
Mm-hmm.
was not easy for me. Not easy to obtain the permission to make a thesis about cartoons, because you first to make the thesis you need to present your project to be approved by the committee of
Mm-hmm.
the professors,
Of course.
and they say, "Hey, this is not a serious thing to make a thesis." That was in the very late year of 1996. So, and I say, "Well, but this is what I want to do." And I was full with my idea. I was read the Umberto Eco's novel, The Name of the Rose, and I had the
Mm.
whole concept in my mind. And well, finally they gave me the permission, but they didn't give me the materials. that
Okay.
that was amazing. And then I made a big painting. So that moment you needed to prove that you were able to paint. So
Mm-hmm. Of
that's why
course.
I made a painting, an oil painting. So around 2 meters for 1 or 120 or something like that. So that was the thesis. In the thesis, I was explaining how the comic, the cartoon, are essential in the Cuban society, because
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning it's related with the Cuban nationality. Our independence idea came through the cartoons to the people. Our
Yeah, we were
first,
talking about it before, right? So you tell me
we were
that
talking
there's a
about that.
strong tradition, because I mean, it's easy to notice that there are a lot of really good cartoonists that coming from Cuba or they live in Cuba, and there's a strong tradition, right? Do you want to say something about that?
This is quite interesting, because one of the first independent movements were graphicated with cartoons in the year of 1899. So I'm talking about the second
Mm.
independence war against Spain. Appeared the first Cuban character. It was a farmer, and that farmer was explaining how and why we need to fight against the Spanish, because at that moment Cuba were Spanish. It was a Spanish province, and many
Mm.
people were questioning, why do we need to fight each other? So this is crazy. I don't know. And one of the interesting things is that Liborio was friend of Uncle Sam. This,
Mm.
and then we
That's
know
crazy.
the story. So
Of course.
after Liborio appear many beautiful characters. One of the characters that I love the most is the El Bobo, the fool, the not the fool, the dumb guy.
Mm-hmm.
That was so so simple, so modern in the style, and it was made by a painter, by a well-renowned painter in Cuba, Abela. So and El Bobo became like the symbol of the people, the dumb. We are the dumbs. We are the dumbs. We are all the time. We are questioning our things. Why it happens here in the society, and I think this the this idea of the bobo still remain in our society. It's not only Cuban. This guy, that artist, encapsulated somehow the human essentials
Mm-hmm.
in a few lines. So it is impressive, and I included El Bobo in my thesis. So, and I
So how
need
did
to
it go?
say that, yeah.
How did it go with the thesis?
Or the thesis was a little bit complicated.
Because actually, it's interesting because I studied in Groningen and I studied journalism actually, and I was already doing political cartoons and submitted an idea
It's
for
a
a thesis about cartoons,
Yeah.
and it was refused. And actually, they didn't let me go on with that, so I had to drop it because actually their motivation was there was nobody that was able to judge on the thesis because nobody knew anything about it.
This is the
So
thing.
that's,
This is the,
I mean, and it's weird because in the end they should be part of journalism, and
yes,
in
it
the
is.
end it's there, right?
It's essential part of journalism. It's essential part of journalism, like photography, like writing journalism. Because they are pure ideas. Pure ideas. The people remember. We are iconic beings. We
Hmm.
remember better images than articles, and we
Yeah.
remember better drawings than photographs. This is the
Hmm.
this is the main thing, and this was taken by William Randolph Hearst in his idea of journalism. That's why for him
Hmm.
was very important to have a cartoon in his newspapers, and
But that's first,
that's
then
why.
I'm gonna interrupt you on this because I think it ties in with so the second part of the talk is dedicated to taking a look at some cartoons. So I asked you to select some cartoons, and I think what we are talking about now ties well with some of the cartoons you sent me. So I'm gonna flip my screen so that people can see which cartoons you selected, and then we can comment them together. It's not going to be really elegant because this is a mobile phone and it's going to be a bit wobbly. But so the first one that I would want to talk about is this one. So this is one of your cartoons,
Yeah.
and I think it says something about what you were talking about, right? And
Yeah.
it's actually really interesting because so if I can give you like a side interpretation of this, if you take out pieces of newspaper, you create a hole in the newspaper, right? And so with those newspapers that take out the satire, they're creating holes in the protection. I mean, it's still part of a newspaper. It's still an editorial, right?
You know, this cartoon is one of the group of cartoons I made after right after Charlie Hebdo.
Okay.
You know, we lost many friends in that incident, and our world changed. We can say that our world changed since Charlie Hebdo. And that's why for me it's very emotional. So I made a series of 15 cartoons about that, and maybe I think Cartoon Movement has published some of them, and this is one of the that belongs to that series, because I think we don't harm anybody. We don't harm anybody. We just present the things, you know. And now we are forced to protect us, because the people are first they it's, for me, I think we are losing the sense of humor. Since ever we had cartoons in newspapers. It's like you said, when a cartoon is missing in the paper, it's like a hole. It's like something is missing. The essential of this is missing. And in the other hand, is the people became more and more susceptible, more sensitive to our cartoons. And why to a cartoon first than an article? This is something
Well, I mean,
that makes me think.
I think it's the other side of the same thing you were saying, right? That's because it's easy to interpret. It's also more rememberable, and people just remember also the part that was upsetting. I mean, that's also why the satire is really punchy, more than editorials, more than written journalism.
It's 3 seconds, and bam, is the meaning is there.
But so
And
how do you, so let's pass to the other cartoon instead. Okay, I selected two. Let's see if no, this is the next one. This one. So can you explain the cartoon a tiny bit? Like, what's the reflection behind the freedom of expression?
well, this is about totalitarian regimes that talk about, okay, you can talk, you can express your ideas. They are inviting you to express, but this is the trap. When you talk, pop, it's like you enter in the forest, and the wolf is waiting for you. You know, it's because I know that we spend many time in under this I don't know how to say, this clash of two worlds that we call the Cold War between these two big powers. And in the other side of the story, I was born in a communist island, in a socialist bubble. This in which this bubble, nothing happens. Nothing could happen. Nothing could happen. And at the point that you were believing that you were living in a magic world, you know. So it somehow was magic for me, because I didn't, at the beginning, I didn't question anything. But later, when you start connecting things, following certain threads, on picking something or searching for certain information, you scratch the wall, and wow, it's like this film Truman's World. Oh,
Yeah, the Truman
and
Show. Yeah,
Truman Show, something like that.
yeah,
And later, because I'm living outside of Cuba since 5 years. This is very important to
yeah.
tell. Later, I discovered other way to censor the ideas.
Okay, yeah,
It's
that's interesting.
it's
Yeah.
more color. It's more colorful, more in the way that I have technology, I have everything, but don't 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 try to seek too much.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to make so much questions or some inconvenient questions, because you can hit the wall. This is the thing.
Yeah, I
And
think maybe it's more like instead of being a hard wall, it's more like a rubber wall. So you
yeah,
just
it's more
you get
soft.
you yeah, right. So it's not really
It's
dangerous, but still there is a way. I mean, one of the next guests I'm gonna review the screen so then I can talk a tiny bit because I'm breaking my arms. One of the next guests of the talks is gonna be El Chico Triste,
and
which is
an
right.
example of this.
It's an
Uh,
example,
uh,
like the guy. I mean, I'm just gonna say it briefly because then we will talk to him. But like the
my
guy
friend,
is in Spain, and his profile on Facebook has been closed,
sad.
and is been closed because he's posting information about what the Spanish government is doing to basically cover all the mistakes that were done during the coronavirus emergency. And basically, they just hired an external agency to close the Facebook profiles, deeming as fake news what actually is simply talking about the topic. So then you basically, instead of being jailed or being threatened directly, they just silence you in a really cheap way, which is just like closing your profile, right?
More,
So there's
more and
another way.
more. I'm having present Aldous Huxley. We
Oh
we
yeah,
are
yeah,
we are living not in George Orwell world. We are living
hmm
more in Aldous Huxley world, in
yeah,
which we love our jail.
mm,
We don't see our jail as a jail. So,
yeah,
but don't seek too much. Don't seek too much. Because, for
yeah,
example, and this is another example, in Niels Bo Boyesen, another friend of me,
hmm
he drew a cartoon. The moment I saw that cartoon about that was one of the first cartoons about coronavirus.
It was the
And
one that you sent me because I can show
yeah,
it if you want.
yeah,
Okay,
this,
wait.
please,
Mm, this one.
this one, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So this cartoon is brilliant. It's brilliant, and was published by the main newspaper in Denmark, and
hmm
was in Denmark where they received a communication from the China embassy, the Chinese embassy, to remove that cartoon and to offer a sorry about that,
Yeah.
about doing that. So, how the censorship can be like the daily bread that we have. This for me.
Mm.
This is amazing.
And
This
actually,
is
it's
amazing.
really interesting because it keeps happening. I mean, the cases of governments getting offended by cartoons are, I think, really, I want to say once a month, but it's really happening really, really often. And in the end, it's actually a good sign because it means the cartoons are actually really pushing the right buttons. But at the same time, it makes it really difficult to be a cartoonist. And even if you are in a place like Denmark or Spain or I mean Italy or places like this, it's really
Switzerland.
incredible.
It's,
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
it, it, it is It is incredible. It's like
Yeah.
you said. It is incredible because why? For example, why do we need to be shocked because of one cartoon? This that I think from that moment, from Charlie Hebdo, the things has changed forever.
Yeah,
It's
it gave much more weight to the cartoons, but then, of course, with the visibility, there's also a lot of controversy about what's done. Yeah. But okay, I wanna pass to the next cartoon because it also brings us to a new topic, which is actually really interesting because it ties in with something you told me some days ago about the community. So it's also related to this. Cartoonists are attacked. They need to stick together. And there was one initiative. There was the one that was related to Steve Brodner's challenge. Basically, I'm gonna just like basically just do a short summary of what happened. The New York Times, for who doesn't know, published super long. It was like I think 6 pages with 1,000 names. It was a super long obituary on the front page of the newspaper because of course, the many deaths in the U.S. Caused by the coronavirus. And basically, then there was this community challenge for cartoonists of drawing Trump in front of the page because Trump, at the same moment in which the New York Times was going out, was playing golf, and then he was making some ridiculous, pretty crazy comments about greatness and stuff like that. So this is the cartoon that you drew, but actually there are like, I don't remember, like I think thousands, not thousands, no, unfortunately, but like dozens of cartoons about the same topic. So do you want to say
yeah,
something about it?
yeah. That I was telling you that right now the times are changing. Times are changing, and we need to change with the times. We need to be more flexible. We need to support each other in the networks. At least this is the less that we can do. The other ways is to answer directly. Is to answer to respond directly, to help each other directly somehow. Because I think, in my opinion, I think this is the way that we can prevail in these changing times. Because, for example, in that case of Steve Brodner, I uh, I was very impressed by the editorial, because they choose one of the very old designs of the New York Times, the
Yeah.
6 columns design from the 19th century. So, and to see that design right now, nowadays, so it was very shocking. And when I start reading, I know that this is an obituary. Wow, that's amazing. So I remain that day. I remained without doing nothing. So, and then came the challenge from Brodner in Facebook, and say, okay, let's do something about that. I took a drawing I had made for Trump about something else, and for me, one of the most popular phrases of Donny, as I call him Donny, is fake news, because for him everything is fake. Everything is fake news, fake journalist, nasty person, fake thing, and one of the ways to deny, because in his position he's a denial. He's denying what is happening, and this is the worst thing that a president can do. He's denying the epidemic. He's I put him by facing that fact and saying, these are fake news. This is fake news. This is word for nothing. So it's because till this moment we don't see any answer from
Yeah.
that person. It's it's amazing.
Okay. Then now I'm gonna pass to some questions because I have a question from Paolo that sent it to me actually through Facebook. I'm gonna read it because it's actually quite interesting, although I wanna really see how you will answer. So Paulo Fernandez is a professor of satire, among other things, in Spain. Actually, I
Oh,
think he's going to be also one of our guests in the next episodes. And of course, it takes like a theoretical approach to the thing. So he's actually talking about the Broadner's challenge, which is the one that we just saw about the cartoonists drawing over the New York Times page. And he's asking, let's just imagine that 100 years from now, an historian of the future looks at your drawings for the challenge. What does this type of testimony teach us about the times there were other types of documents cannot teach us?
wow! This is a
I know.
very, very, very
It's an interesting
interesting
question.
question,
Yeah,
because
it is.
we are in my opinion, we are documenting the barbaric times. This is the time of barbaric. It's like I don't know. The humanity has several ups and downs, and we are documenting this enormous deep down in which we are living. I have no doubt that in a moment we need to go up, no? But yeah, when the professor has made a very interesting question, because we need to keep documenting the things. We need this is our job, and I will do it till I have forces, till I have my ink and yeah, this is stuck.
And the
Yeah,
paper.
because this is our job. Very interesting question.
Yeah. I think if I can give also my side of the answer, because I also, of course, I received it 1 hour ago and I thought about it. I think there's also a main difference in between journalism and editorial cartoons, which is the humor part. So I've got a book, which is actually this one. I'm going to show it just because I'm really, really proud of it. It's this.
Oh,
Yeah, right. So basically, this book contains cartoons of the New Yorker since the beginning. So they are
very.
super old.
I have the
And it's
same. I
interesting
have the
because you
same.
see the culture changing through the cartoons. So the thing is this, I feel my answer to Paolo would be that the difference in between other means, historical means or documentaries and so on, is the layer of humor that changes through history. So the understanding of humor is changing, and the understanding of history and the interpretation that's given through humor is always different according to the different geographical areas. I mean, I bet he knows more than me about these things, but that's a contribution. And I'm really guessing, as for journalism, satire wouldn't be here because it started thousands of years ago. It wouldn't be here if it wasn't adding something to the plate, right?
Well, we know how the people, the cavemen, doing something because of the drawings in Lascaux.
Yeah.
This is very simple. We know how they hunt a bull, or how they ride a horse, or something, because we see the drawings. It's very simple. This is, in my opinion, this is the simplicity of what we are doing, is the impact that has in the society. This is the thing, and that's why I was a teacher in the art academy later, and I teach cartooning. Yeah, because I am stubborn, and I need to, and I taught cartooning, and I always says that a cartoon is like an iceberg. So the 90% of a cartoon is the idea. Only the 10% is the drawing. Is what you see. That's why
Of
we don't
course.
need. That's why we don't need, for example, Michelangelo drawing.
Yeah, of course, it's a different thing.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a different thing, because it's
of course.
full with idea. That
Yeah,
makes the
let
the,
me
the,
just,
the, the specific
I'm
weight.
going to interrupt you for a second, Ramses,
Yeah.
because I saw that there's a question about the
Okay.
format. So we will save the video and it's going to be on YouTube and in other social media. So on YouTube for the Cartoon Movement, on the Cartoon Movement profile, you can already find the previous episodes. And this also is going to be saved, and in the next days, the moment I have time to edit the video and so on, is going to be put on. But in any case, if there are questions for Ramses, you can also ask them now, and I will see them passing there. So don't be shy and ask, because this is the moment. But yeah,
Yeah,
you're
this
right.
is
I mean,
this is the
I
moment.
understand.
This is the moment.
I remember that I was in Conversano some time ago, where I met some cartoonists for a prize, and the conversation was actually about this. It was about the how much weight should the artistic value of the cartoon have, and there were different opinions about it, because people that were more like arts teachers and stuff like that, they were saying, well, I mean, if it's not well done, then it's also less valuable. But I
Yo,
feel like the composition of the cartoon is a thing. The composition helps because, I mean, like you put like you go on the diagonal, you know the rules, right? But I feel like, of course, you don't want to be like Michelangelo, because that's just not. Also, you cannot do a Michelangelo every 3 days. I mean, if you're drawing cartoons, right?
hey,
Anyway.
I always handle the example of one very important Spanish cartoonist, Máximo, from El
Hmm.
País. Máximo sold any of his ideas with 3 lines. Yep, was his entire work was black and white, and uh, and that was for me was fantastic, because I am not entirely a black and white cartoonist. I love color. Sometimes I like shades. Sometimes I like to think better to compositions and blah 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 blah. But I like to experiment, because I don't like to sit down all the time in the comfort zone. This is the most, I think, the most important thing for a cartoonist. Don't remain in your comfort zone, because what is an style? An style is nothing but a mistake that we make. And for me, that's why I don't want to be defined by a simple style or unique style. I produce
Hmm.
many styles, because, for example, for me, the new has its own dramatism. For example, there are news so dramatic that I cannot draw in a funny way.
Hmm.
There is no way to draw it
Hmm.
in a funny way. Or there are other news that they are dramatic, but you need to make the certain impression in a funny way to obtain another result. I say the capillarity,
Hmm.
So, because above all, we are working with the psychology of the people. So,
Hmm.
and this is, we need to think in this all the time, because for me, is to think in the other is very important. To feel the other is very important for a cartoonist.
Hmm. Okay, I've got another question. It's more a statement, and then Buddy asks if we agree. So I think the main difference in cartoon as a medium is that through humor it talks to our emotions directly. So the idea talks as emotionally rather than rationally in terms of method. Do you agree?
Well, I think we are workers indeed in that. So sometimes you need to use some emotion, but I tell you what, we Latinos, we are very emotional,
Mm,
and we know a lot about emotional answers. And normally, an emotional answer is not the right answer. So that's
mm,
why I think you need to cook those ideas. You need to wait a little bit. You need to read a little more. Don't answer immediately. Don't think, oh,
Mm,
somebody is drawing this right now. No, no, because your idea is your
mm.
idea, and you need somehow you need to think in what side of this I need to enter. So you need to
Yeah, I feel
choose.
like there's yeah, of course, there's also different audiences. So I'm guessing, of course, it's a thing that it depends on which person is looking at it. From my experience, of course, um, cartoons that hit you on the guts level, they are more powerful, which doesn't mean that it's always the case, though, because the New Yorker, for example, has cartoons that are really interesting and really punchy, and they are really intellectual. So then in the end, there's a level of detachment. But
Yeah,
I agree
and
with
you
you that writing with fear and or with anger just makes something that then comes across like aggressive maybe or not thought enough.
I have seen many not so well cooked cartoons, and
Mm.
maybe you also. So and
Yeah, I also done some.
yeah,
It's when you want to draw something, that something is something that
it's
you
in
care
your
about. Of
guts.
course, you
Yeah,
put like yeah, exactly.
yeah,
But then if you follow all your guts, it's gonna be something that people will just it's gonna be your thing, your view
because
on a
above all, we are talking to the essence of the people, and the essence of the people is not emotional. It's not when I see the promotions in the TV. I didn't saw many times in Cuba, but here I watch this kind of promotions. All of them, they are so emotional. They are so
mm,
full of big emotions, so I need to have this. I
yeah, of
said,
course.
wow, this is because I think this is not the way we educate people. Because this
Mm.
way we are educating eager persons, or child, kids. So because
Yeah, there's also
they
another thing, right? That the editorial cartoons, because they pertain to journalism, you need to be absolutely certain that you're not doing mistakes in terms of like, because people get information through cartoons. If you do something wrong, if you deliver wrong information, it's still not good journalism.
is
So
not
you
a
need to
good
think about it,
journalism.
right?
Also,
Yeah,
you
of
need to
course.
study. You need to study
Yeah.
even symbols. I mean,
Hmm.
religious symbols also, or cultural symbols, because, for example, a dog for our society is a dog, but for a Muslim society, it's another thing. So
Yeah, of course.
and it's we need to study. We need to study. We need to read every single paper. We need to see every single image. We need to study.
Do you have any book about satire that maybe you read and you found interesting that you also want to share?
Well, I received, like you received, that book. I recommend
Mm.
highly that book you have. But I received
Okay.
another book.
Hmm.
Let me find it now. Wait a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Recently, I received this book, Crazy
Okay.
Cat. I think
Oh, Crazy
it's
Cat, yeah.
yeah, it's a historical statement that never lose the significance. And
Hmm.
with this, you can learn how to draw cartoons and how to talk about social issues in a funny, simply way. So it's so pure, it's so amazing.
Mm.
Oh, it's
Yeah, it's a
beautiful.
super famous,
It's
super famous,
beautiful.
yeah.
It's an example of well-designed thing, black and white,
Hmm.
also with colors, but amazing. And at least this is a black and white. Uh, it's simply beautiful. This is one of my teachers, my professor, my spiritual professors. I have many. Not many, so, but this I recommend this book, Crazy Cat.
Okay. 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 So if there's any question, it has to happen now because we've been talking already for more than half an hour, and then we could go on forever. But then, I mean, when I have to do the editing of this thing, it takes ages. So if there's any question, ask it now. In the meantime, I'm gonna just tell you that the next person that we will have as a guest is gonna be most likely El Chico Triste, which is a Spanish cartoonist that has been recently censored on Facebook and is struggling because he reopened the profile and is having problems again. And then most likely after him is going to be Anderen, which is an amazing cartoonist. And finally also a woman, because I mean in the cartoonist's world it's really difficult to find. There's no real gender equality, unfortunately, for many reasons. I think it's not because women don't draw cartoons, it's more because on like a uphill where the cartoonists are hired, there's like a bias. So I'm really happy that she's gonna talk to us, and then probably Paulo Fernandez, the professor. So we've got some weeks to go, and you will find everything on the Cartoon Movement Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, newsletter, and YouTube channel. So you can rewatch the episode. And of course, if they have questions, I guess they can also reach out to you, adding you on Instagram, or to me, same, or to the Cartoon Movement.
Or we are online all the time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
When
We
you
are
have a
online.
question, you can write us directly, or I don't know. So we are all the time on
Exactly.
board.
Okay. Well, then I'm gonna wrap it up, and thanks because it was a really interesting conversation. I'm really happy. Oh, wait, now there is a question. It's gonna be the last one. Okay. Is there a certain method you follow to condense your idea into one cartoon?
Well, I
Mm.
normally I used to say to my colleagues that I am a worker of doing nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
because when I have an idea, when I read something, some article, I lay down. I just lay down in my couch, in my sofa. So
Mm-hmm.
and then I start seeing things, so images that comes and goes and this and that, and yeah, I say, well, this is the cooking process, because this is I don't start doing doodles. I do doodles because I like, but nothing more. When I have an idea, that comes the idea, and plop, I start drawing the things. But my main work is here and
Is in
here.
the head.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
of
This
course.
is
Okay, perfect. Then thanks everybody again. Thanks Ramses. It was a pleasure to talk to you. I'm hoping that we will meet at some point. Hopefully the emergency is also over soon.
yeah.
So you're always welcome in Amsterdam with the Cartoon Movement. And
Thank you very much.
thanks again. Thanks to everybody that followed, and see you next time.
It's okay. Ready.
Ciao guys.
Ciao.
Ciao Ramses.